Hey, welcome back to my newsletter. Rah! My guest, you might recognize him. He seems to become a regular on the show. Charles Taerk is the co-manager? Manager of the Ninepoint-UIT Alternative Health Fund.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
It's a team effort. Doug Watterson and myself on the fund.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, but you are one of the only institutional choices in terms of an active manager that is, buying cannabis stocks.
That's correct.
And let's touch quickly on why would I invest in your fund in terms of performance?
Well, great. Year to date, we're doing quite well. Year to date, we're up close to 10%. Relative to the index or the large ETFs, which I think are still negative for the year.
Right.
We're an actively managed fund, and I think that's really where the differentiation starts. So we've been trading in and out of names. We get out of names when we feel that they're more well valued at times. We can sit in cash. We also invest in some privates. So we're giving you a different flavor for the alternative health space, not just cannabis, but other areas in alternative health, such as health and wellness, vitamins, minerals, supplements,
Sure.
That whole demographic shift.
Okay, so clearly you have some names that you consider more attractive at this time in the whole evolution than others, and that changes over time.
Yes.
So give me an example of one of your favorites now.
So one that we continue to see value in is Aphria. And it's a name that has been in the news well over the year. Vic Neufeld is a very well-known executive in the Canadian portfolio or public markets.
Right.
Used to run Jameson Labs, very prominent in vitamins, minerals, supplements. And a few years ago, left Jameson and co-founded Aphria with some childhood friends in Leamington, Ontario. And what we find really interesting about Aphria is it's got all the building blocks that we've talked about in the past. An executive team that has good experience. It's now got the capacity to deliver both for the provincial agreements, the supply agreements coming out, and is poised to go international. And it's a very efficient producer. So it's really putting together a well-executed business plan.
Sure, and you recently visited their facility, which, as I visited their facility as well, but my visit was probably 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And from what you're telling me, there's been a rather comprehensive upgrade of the whole site.
Yeah, so we were there also less than a year ago, and then came back. We were here there last week. And what we see is a phenomenal progression. They told us what they were going to do, and now they're doing it, which is great to see. When we were there last, they had just 50, 60,000 square feet of growing space. They now have over 300,000 square feet of operational cultivating space. And by the end of the year, this is at the Aphria 1 site in Leamington, they will be at 1 million square feet. So building another 700,000 square feet on to what they currently have. And it's not just the amount of space, but it's the quality of what they're doing in the design. The extent of automation that's going on there is going to allow Aphria to increase the throughput through their grow cycle and into their packaging, processing, fulfillment cycle. The level of automation, the tables are moving automatically through the grow area, through propagation to the grow area, and just a phenomenal amount of technology. And we got demonstrations on much of that last week.
Very cool. So do you think that Vic Neufeld's sort of pedigree with the Jameson Labs experience, when he took over that company, it was kind of struggling for relevance, and within, I think it was a period of less than 10 years, he took it to above, was it $14 billion worth of product sales?
Yeah.
And so do you think that's kind of the differentiator that the investor needs to consider when they're looking for differentiated strategies among ACMPR?
Sure. So as I went back, management team's really important, and Vic has some very unique skill sets, and I think Carlo and John, his co-founders, also bring different skill sets. So Vic, knowing the Shoppers Drug Mart and the pharmacy business aspect of distribution is really important. although the pharmacies are not involved yet in the cannabis industry, they will be. I firmly believe that down the road, Canada's pharmacy chains, whether it's PharmaSave, Shoppers, etc., they will all be the pharmacy or distribution choice rather than how medical patients are getting their prescriptions right now. So and that's only a matter of time. So with Vic understanding how pharmacies work, the distribution that they have, it was no wonder that that Aphria last fall got the first letter of intent from Shoppers Drug Mart for, call it, preferred distribution when that happens. So that's really important. And then when you look at John and Carlo, their experience in the farming business, able to take the scale and capacity of what's required from a logistics standpoint and really build out the space at Aphria 1 is really important, because we see a lot of infill facilities being built, existing warehouse, existing industrial space, and you don't have the same ability to design the flow of trucks in and out of the property, where deliveries are going to happen, how deliveries of nutrients are going to get delivered to the plants. So they've really started with a blank space with their land, and then they've repurposed it in a really efficient way.
So is Aphria's strategy then to focus on the medical patient and the pharmaceutical distribution channel, and not so much on the recreational side?
Oh no, I think they're looking at both. Recently, they've brought in more expertise at the executive level. I believe the gentleman's name is Jacob Ripstein, who used to be at Diageo, and so they've brought him in to deal with the distribution on the recreational side. Again, executive focus, dealing with the liquor control boards across the provinces, because that's where the primary distribution is going to be. So again, added more executive leadership to their company. And then they have the distribution agreement with Southern Glazer, which is the largest alcohol distributor in North America. So they've got some real muscle on the distribution side. They've got great execution on the production side. They're a low-cost producer at 95 cents a gram, and they're continuing to be profitable. You know, can't harp on this point enough, because there's a lot of skepticism out there that these companies don't make any money. Aphria has been profitable for the last 10 quarters. They're the only ones in the sector, and really we feel that they're like left out when people are talking about the top 3 names and the valuation metrics they're getting. Aphria trades at a relative discount.
Sure. We're looking at their stock price and their stock performance in the last quarter, and you certainly wouldn't get a sense from what you're saying that it's being reflected in the share price at this time. Do you think that there's a lack of awareness on the part of the market because some of the bigger companies or the other companies are making more noise that are getting the attention of the investor community?
Sure, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, during the quarter, it's been pretty flat. A little bit of progress since April. Beginning of the year, they had a rough start. Everyone was doing quite well in January, and then there was a series of M&A activities. Their acquisition of Nuvera, I think, was not well received. And so the stock came off considerably from end of January to the beginning of April. And at that point, that's when we started to take a look at it once again and said, you know what, it's now fallen to a point where it becomes more irresistible as an investment. And we started to do more work on it again. And we've done quite well, really, since April moving forward. And I think going forward, again, it's about execution. I think the management team is in place. I think they have executed to date in terms of getting the production going and getting capacity going. And I think they're positioned for positive information going forward.
Sure. Okay, so are there other companies that you could perhaps talk about that might be a future Aphria?
Well, you know what, we haven't talked much about Manitoba, but smaller province, doesn't get a lot of news, but Delta 9 is an interesting player. It is not one that we own in the fund yet.
Okay.
But
a fund manager not talking his book. Now, there's...
Hey, I want to be an equal opportunity guy.
I like that. I like that. Credibility.
It's an interesting name because, again, it's one of those names that doesn't get a ton of attention. Smaller name, smaller footprint to be dealing with. They've got one of the 4 announced distribution deals in the province of Manitoba. They might get some more business west in Saskatchewan or Alberta. And yeah, they seem to be doing things very efficiently. So efficient production, and who knows where that takes them west of Ontario.
You bet. Yeah. Again, looking at their performance especially, they kind of participated in the beginning of the year bullishness. Not really though. And it's been coming off since then. Again, it's a case of being a smaller company in Manitoba, hard to get the attention of the North American audience or the global audience. So again, perhaps something that's got a lot of compressed value in it.
Well, and that's exactly the point. We, one of the other mandates that we have is a gold equities fund. And we use the analogy of what we've learned in gold mining to cannabis, although people are scratching their heads out there going, what does this have to do? But it's looking at management teams, knowing although this is a small asset, undiscovered, they might have a great management team, a great geologist who was somewhere else in his past and knows how to work that property, and they have people on the team that know how to do development. And you know, diamond in the rough. Here in cannabis, you may have a team that is just using a smaller footprint, but they know what they're doing. And if they're able to execute, they're going to become a takeover target. We're not here to love the companies we invest in. We're looking for the biggest and best growth opportunities. So when you look at a company like Delta 9, here's a company that's turning itself around, and at some point, one of the incumbents, one of the larger companies, may offer to acquire it. So it could be a good payday.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eye on that.
Sure.
Charles,
you never know.
As usual, a fountain of knowledge. Again, thanks for your participation. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.